Wardlow is your new TNT champion. Christian Cage continues to be brutal on the mic. And Jon Moxley got his first defense win for the AEW Interim Championship. I am GT Schwa, and we are going over the wrap-up for all the big highlights and what went down on the June 6th episode of AEW Dynamite. First things first, Wardlow versus Scorpio Sky. Was so happy that this was starting off, and thankfully my wish came true. If you've seen any of my prior videos, you know I am big on Wardlow. I think he is fantastic. I think his presentation since the very beginning has been fantastic. I think that he's been on the back burner a little bit because of Forbidden Door and, there being other stuff they needed to work on. But now that that is over with, they have given him the rocket push that he deserves. And this really felt like a return to form for him. Scorpio Sky is a man who I feel sorry for the man, because I like Scorp. I think he's great. But the booking around American Top Team, or more everything around American Top Team, has been so messy that unfortunately his title, his time as champ feels like kind of a wash. Maybe someday he'll get another crack at the championship scene, but because of everything that went down with Sammy Guevara, and before that Cody Rhodes, and just everything with the TNT belt for the last 6 months, it's been a little bit of a mess, and I'm excited to see Wardlow with that belt on him. It was a very great match. It was, for some reason, a street fight, and it didn't really feel like a street fight in any way. It just felt like it was a normal match. There wasn't even any weird weapon intrigue or the other people on the side. There was one point where a bunch of the American Top Team guys ran in. Wardlow punched each of them once, threw them out of the ring, and then he moved on with his day. So that was about it on that end. But, outside of that, they treated the victory like a big deal. There was tons of confetti in the air. Super happy for Wardlow, and so was Eddie Kingston later on in the show, but we'll get to that. I'm super happy for Wardlow. I cannot wait to see what they do with our new TNT champ, Wardlow. After that, the man who everyone has had on their mind. No one has been able to stop talking about Christian Cage. A man who, for the last year, basically, kind of felt like a background character. But now that everyone is injured, he is really making a name for himself as sleaziest, slimiest piece of shit on the roster, especially with MJF gone. He's sliding right into that role. He is the best heel in AEW that is actively working right now. We'll see what happens when MJF comes back, but right now, Christian is it. And then Matt Hardy came out. And I'm not gonna lie, there was a moment where I was like, why? I don't hate Matt Hardy. I like Matt Hardy. But he really regularly kind of feels out of place in the stuff he's doing. But he was used perfectly here. Leveraging Jeff Hardy, leveraging what is going on with him in terms of alcoholism and rehab and the issues he's having. Something that I would have to imagine and hope got cleared by Matt and Jeff before they got started here. That was amazing. And it felt perfect. It felt correctly used. Christian is going for every low blow and dirty move that he possibly can right now. And it's really paying off. So I really enjoyed this segment. Also, Luchasaurus, I just love the new look, giving him the all-black look. The fact that Christian is still teasing the motive and intent behind why him and Luchasaurus doing, like, specifically why Luchasaurus has turned. I'm glad we're doing that, because I know Jungle Boy is still injured. We may not have him back for a little while, so let's not rush this. Let's take our time here. The intrigue is still there. I'm excited to see what happens next. And right now, especially, this is my favorite story in AEW right now. It is, every single week, I'm just thinking I need to hear what Christian has to say. And that's great. Shortly after that, Swerve in Our Glory versus Butcher and the Blade. This was a very fun match. Earlier in the night, Mark Sterling and Tony Nese were trying to get signatures to kick Swerve off of the roster, and Keith Lee made it very clear, hey, we're still winning, so I still trust him. Now, I think that's interesting. Maybe, we're definitely building towards a schism between those two. Eventually, something is going to happen. Those two are going to fall apart. They're like a cooler Hangman and Omega, where they're these two singles guys that are both amazing, and you just love them. And right now, because you love them both individually, them as a tag team, they mesh so well. You want to see them win, but you know that eventually they're going to have this falling out, and they're going to have an amazing feud, and one of them is going to end up with a belt within the next 2 years. But this match was fantastic. Butcher and Blade are the best jobbers in the company in terms of the best wrestlers that happen to be jobbers. You know, every single time they're in the ring, they're so fantastic looking. They're so physical, so aggressive. It was a great match. And Swerve Our Glory got the win. It was a great time. And then it kept going. Here's the thing. I love Hobbs. I love Starks. And they come out and they're shit talking, which is fine. You know, I'm down with a rematch with those two teams, and that's fine. But then the Bucks come out. And the Bucks, they're talking their shit. And they're like, hey, you know what? 3-way tag match for the AEW tag belts. And all I could think was like, hey, man, haven't we done this already? But just with Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus as the tag champs? And the difference there is that I actually believed that Jurassic Express could lose that match. With this one, there's no way that I could see either team beating the Young Bucks. The Young Bucks just got the belt. You know, I thought maybe we were going to do like, hey, you two teams will have a match, the winner gets to fight us. But no, they're just going at it from the word go. So as much as that's going to be a fun match, it'll be a great match for Fyter Fest, it also just feels like a throwaway feud, and at a certain point it just feels like it's kind of spinning its wheels a little bit. It is not bad, it just feels a little stalled and a little like, I mean, I've seen this before basically, and I already know what's going to happen. So hopefully that match will be fun, but I'm not insanely excited about it. Up next, I believe this was next, Eddie Kingston gets a quick promo in the ring. He says congratulations to Wardlow, congratulations to the Blackpool Combat Club, including Claudio. I don't think we're getting the Claudio feud for any time soon. We're going to be planting seeds on that, I imagine. But in the interim, he is about to call out Jericho. Jericho calls Eddie out first, and then he has Ty Conti immediately throw Ruby Soho into a car and then slam her arm in the door. And the production was a little weird tonight. It didn't cut back to see Eddie Kingston's face, which I was like, oh, I need to see how angry Eddie is or how upset he is, or him just running towards the back to go help her. But no, we just stay on them for the rest of it, and then it just cuts on. I'm excited. You know, I was skeptical of continuing Eddie versus Jericho just because it's been going on. At this point, we're on like month 7 of this feud. But they keep finding ways to one-up it. And I think adding Ruby Soho into the mix, maybe giving her a feud with Ty Conti now, and, you know, finishing this up the way it started with Jericho and Kingston. I'm down for one more ride on this. I hope they find a couple more octaves to hit in this feud, just because it's been going on so long, but I can't say that I'm not. I have a little bit more excitement for this. I hope that they do one final banger, they have a great final match, and then we can move on with our lives. After that, Penta versus Roosh. Roosh's first one-on-one match in AEW, at least on television. I'm sure he's done some stuff on Dark at this point. He is amazing. Also, he is the most attractive man to ever have a beard, no mustache combination. I was looking at him like, I don't. You should look Amish with that beard, but for some reason he makes it work. Which, you know, good for him. The Lucha Brothers don't have bad matches, and Andrade doesn't have a bad match. It makes sense that Andrade's friend Roosh also doesn't have a bad match. This was fantastic. It was a lot of fun. We got a brawl with the managers in the back. We had Andrade cheating a little bit on the side. Roosh gets the big win. I have to imagine that we're going to be building towards a Lucha Brothers versus La Facción Ingobernables. I think I said that right. Super excited for that. I'm excited to see this faction growing and building. It feels like Andrade finally has something important to be doing, and God, am I happy about it. Next, now this wasn't next, I believe this was earlier in the night, but it wasn't as important, so I put it near the back. The Dark Order. Let's talk about the Dark Order real quick. I love the Dark Order. I think they're great. I have loved them since the very beginning. They are a bunch of dorks in cultist outfits, and I think that's great. But they have not really been that big a deal for the last, really, pretty much since Hangman got the belt. You know, after he got the belt, you know, they did some stuff with Danielson, with them kind of going out one at a time to fight him, but after that, they just kind of vanished. They show up once in a while to add some emotional stakes for Hangman's matches, but besides that, they've kind of been out of it. And then Hangman lost the belt, and it seems like immediately after, suddenly they matter in his story again. And I can't help but feel like maybe, I don't know, I might make a video on this because it's been on my mind for a little while. I wonder if Tony Khan or AEW were just a little embarrassed by the Dark Order when Hangman was champ. Like, it felt like they weren't willing to let them exist around Hangman that often. I have to wonder if maybe they had a bit of the Jim Cornette fans in their ear, you know, a little bit of the like, hey, these guys are dork jobbers, don't let them be around the champ, it'll make him look weak. Which is a shame, because I really like the Dark Order, and as much as I don't think that they should really be winning too much, I like them as this through line for Hangman's emotional state and them being his buddies. I loved John Silver in the Royal Rampage with Hangman and them joking with each other. Point being, Dark Order showed up tonight after Alan Angels and Stu Grayson have both left, and they kind of acknowledge that, like, hey, it's the 6 of us, but we're not going anywhere. We are going to be staying here long term. We are the Dark Order. We're not going anywhere, basically. And, you know, that's awesome. You know, it's good to hear that. But it doesn't really sound like they have, they didn't really set up an ongoing story. I guess they set up QT Marshall. But that just screams buy-in level feud, like a burner feud, a feud that's taking time away from other stuff that could be going. They had -1 out. You know, it's always great to see -1, but, you know, QT Marshall was like, how many times are we going to keep pulling this kid out? And I'm not going to lie, I kind of felt that. It's like, no, I love that they bring -1 out, you know, for him to say hi, and it's like, hey, man, you know, we love this kid. But, like, it at a certain point, it does feel a little manipulative of like, hey, we're in Brody Lee's hometown. Remember Brody Lee? Here's his son, remember? Yeah, you know, I didn't hate the segment. It just felt like, all right, this is a thing that's happening. Call me when we're actually getting a storyline here. Hangman did come out at the end, which was cool, but yeah, no, hit me up when we're getting a full story and I'll be more excited. Right now it felt like, hey, we're going to Brody Lee's hometown. The Dark Order has to come out and make an appearance, but they're probably going to go back to Jobber Purgatory for the next couple months, which makes me sad. After that, Thunderstorm, which is Thunder Rosa and Toni Storm versus Nyla Rose and Marina Shafir. It was a great match. Marina Shafir, I think, is getting a bit more cheering now that she's been paired with, in my opinion, the best talker in the women's division. They came out with umbrellas, and it took me a good 2 minutes to figure out, oh, because they're fighting Thunderstorm. That's very clever. Okay, guys, don't, you know. It's very silly, but I really enjoyed it. It was a very fun match. I really enjoyed it. I think that Thunder Rosa and Toni Storm do have great chemistry in the ring. They are a great team. But this felt like a slow night for the women's division. I don't know if this is a long-term team or if this is a long-term feud. It's certainly been going for a while. But it was really just this and a short backstage segment with Jade Cargill to confirm that the woman from last week is indeed going to be a baddie. And that was it for the women all night. So, decent match for a pretty slow night for the women's division, unfortunately. And then finally, the main event. It was a wall of beef versus a very violent Jon Moxley. It was Jon Moxley versus Brody King. Very fun match. You know, Brody King, I was so excited that he was getting a match this week against Jon Moxley, because he as an individual has not had a ton to do up until this point. And it was fun. It was a great time. You know, it was very much a battle of the rear naked chokes. Not rear naked chokes, but like of the behind the body chokes. You know, John with the bulldog choke and Brody King getting up on the ropes and choking Jon Moxley above the like hanging him in the air. It was a great match. Moxley got the inevitable win at the very end, and that was that. It was pretty clean and straightforward. Overall, this was a fantastic episode of Dynamite. It was not as mind-blowing as last week with Blood and Guts, which just it paces the show amazingly when we have Blood and Guts. But it was a very, very fun show. There's a dozen things that happened in terms of backstage segments and stuff for future weeks. Not going to get into all of that right now. But let me know what you think. What did you enjoy most on tonight's episode? Personally, you know, as much as I loved Wardlow winning that TNT Championship, and I'm excited to see what he does with it, Christian Cage every single week is my man. I will see you all next week. I am GT Schwa. I will see you all in the next one.